Hello, and welcome to our Fuel the Classroom Cloud Ready Classrooms webinar today. Aspire to be proud to partner with Microsoft to bring you these Fuel the Classroom webinars this month. We are a Microsoft Global Training Partner, and we look forward to hosting these free webinars all month and more coming after half term, which will be announced very soon. And also, we encourage you to look at the registration page that you referred to when registering for this webinar to take a look at upcoming webinars that might suit you. And we will have more later on after this month as well. Before we begin today, I want to introduce myself for those of you that haven't attended one of our webinars before. My name is Dean Garza. I'm originally from Houston, Texas in the United States, and I'm currently a learning technologist for Aspire to Be. I've taught for over 20 years in Wales, England, the United States, and Japan. And along that way, I've trained and helped support PGCE students programs at UCL and Brunel University, as well as student teacher programs in the United States. And I just want to make sure that it's very clear that you can contact me or any of the team at Aspire to Be if you have any questions about Microsoft in the classroom, or maybe you just want to get in touch about something that was presented and you have some questions about that from today. So over here on the right-hand side of the screen, you can find my Twitter tag, LinkedIn contacts, and my email. So feel free, as this is also going to be recorded, if you ever want to refer to that to get in touch with me, go ahead. And also at the end of the webinar today, I'm going to give you another email address to get in contact with the whole team if you have something larger in mind for your school, or maybe you want to talk to us about the Aspire Ed platform, which I'll go over later today. I want to quickly talk about our feature presenter who is coming on today. Now, just like every educator, we've all been affected by COVID-19 and everything that's happening. So Miss Piper is one of our NQT ambassadors. And of course, she cannot join us today because of all the things happening. But I just wanted to make sure we mentioned, because some of the ideas we're going to share today are from Miss Piper. And this is her Twitter tag of our MIE expert A to B ambassador. So if you want to get in contact with Rachel, she is an NQT and she is a computing and ICT instructor. She has some great ideas. So feel free to follow her on Twitter or if you have any questions. Okay, so what is the agenda today? Well, I'm going to start off with, of course, our introductions, but I want to kind of move into why Microsoft and why now, especially as we're moving into this strange year and the way that we're teaching more online as well as in the classroom. And then I want to give you an overview of some Microsoft offerings as well as Aspire to Be offerings. And then I'm going to move into the presentations today. I'm going to talk about Minecraft Education Edition, and in particular, the MakeCode code builder that's available in Minecraft. And we're not only going to talk about how to use it, but how to use it at a starting jumping on level for NQTs, for example, as a lesson, but how to extend it and then bring it together with the other collaborative tools in Microsoft 365. It's going to be really, really cool. I'm really about that part. And then we're going to move into MakeCode Arcade, which is an area of MakeCode that not a lot of people know about, but it's really great. And it's a great introductory session in terms of getting students used to making their own projects using block coding all the way to Python. And just like Minecraft, it is a great gateway to teach coding and to get kids really interested in making their own games, okay? And then lastly, at the end, we're going to talk about your next steps on your Microsoft Innovative Educator journey. So we will be giving you a code at the end of this webinar to redeem at the MAC, the Microsoft Educator Community, okay, and also the Microsoft Educator Center. So I'm going to talk a bit about that at the end of the webinar, but I'm also going to talk about a chance you can have to win a free voucher to get a Microsoft Certified Educator exam. So if you're interested in that as well, I'll go over all those things at the end. And also I'll be talking about how to get a 50% off code, which I'll be sending to all of our webinar attendees, 50% off code from all of our Aspire Ed Microsoft EDU courses. And I will be going over that in detail later on in the webinar. So please stick around for that. Well, let's move on. So we talked about in the agenda there why Microsoft, and I wanted to start off with the idea of hybrid learning. So this is one big reason why Microsoft is important now more than ever. As we all know, the current climate calls for new ways to adapt to reaching our students at home and in the classroom. So the need for blended learning at home and in the classroom has never been higher, but Microsoft has those tools to help you if you're starting your journey or if you're extending what you're already doing with Microsoft in the classroom. So, in essence, it really can help you start that journey and help you to create a true hybrid learning experience. So, if we take a look here at my super Venn diagram, I like to call it, because we've got quite a few circles here that are meeting up. Now, this is starting with the face to face element. It's what we're used to as educators, really, and virtually now with some Microsoft 365 tools. And it really helps to facilitate class, not only the class itself, but class materials, discussions, and assignments. Okay. So, however, with these other elements that are added with synchronous and asynchronous learning, we develop the full picture of what's possible. And I want to kind of go into that more in detail in the next slides here. So, if we take a look at our traditional learning, we've got the methods that have served us all as educators very well, and it's still being used, and it has a place for helping students on their learning journeys. It's made up of synchronous and face-to-face elements. And what does that mean exactly? We throw around the term synchronous quite a bit. So what this really means is that students and teachers are in the same building, in the classroom, learning together at the same time, with interventions as needed by the teacher. So again, personalized learning, engagement, and relevant material is really essential to supporting those objectives. Now, as we move into blended learning, which has been happening over the last few years, we see that there's an evolution now of classrooms that are allowing for learning in and out of the classroom, or the learning that happens in the classroom can be extended to the home. So there's a face-to-face element that allows for this and allows for teachers to flip the classroom. Okay, so for example, with video and screen recordings for their students, so that blending learning is allowed for lessons to be previewed or even carried on by students when they're not in the classroom. And I know it's been a great help and a time saver, including me, and for marking work and also reviewing work. As we return back to take a look at the hybrid learning model, well, we can see that all of those elements come together now, along with the virtual classrooms, such as in Microsoft Teams, to facilitate the synchronous and asynchronous learning that we need now. So this, however, does not replace the traditional teaching, but it enhances it. So with recent occurrences, this really gives teachers the ability to carry on lessons with students when they're not able to come into the school building. And just like we said earlier, that could be synchronous. We could have all of the students together face-to-face in a virtual environment, such as Microsoft Teams, or it could be asynchronous, where the students retrieve that lesson through a recording in Microsoft Teams and watch it at their pace. So what does all this mean, and how does it support our students' futures? Well, if we take a look here at some digital skills that students will definitely need in the 21st century, we can see now how this is going to support their skills that are needed for tomorrow's workforce. So taking a look here at a few of them: collaboration, creativity, innovation, skilled communication, handling information, real-world problem solving, harnessing and sharing knowledge. Now, I know for teachers in Wales, a lot of these skills already align with the DCF that is used to teach in the classroom here. So for example, if we're looking at handling information and handling data for specific portions of the DCF, we know that that is something that's run every day. So that's great. And also with skilled communication, we have other tools now to help with that. For example, like Flipgrid and also Microsoft Stream to help record students and teachers and to get that across. And then we have collaboration, which is definitely one of the highlights of using Microsoft Teams, which I'll talk a bit more in just a bit. So how do we bring all that together? We took a look at the hybrid model, blended learning, and also the traditional. So how do we combine all those? Well, here's a start when we can create an engaged digital classroom using some of these tools. So we've got Microsoft Teams, Flipgrid, PowerPoint, and OneNote. Now today, we're going to specifically talk about Minecraft Education Edition and also MakeCode Arcade, but I'm going to also extend that to how we can use that within Teams and also in particular with OneNote class notebook to create extension work, create lessons that are interactive, and also create that independence of students knowing what they're doing and also knowing when they're finished and how they've been successful by the end of the lesson. So before we move on to today, I'm going to go back, take a step back. And like I said, this is really geared at NQT and an NQT perspective. So I want to make sure that everyone, including my students, are aware of some of the terminology that we're going to use when we talk about coding. Okay, so we're going to start from the beginning. And what I want to do is go through all these key terms, and then we're going to move into Minecraft Education Edition, Code Builder, and then talk about MakeCode Arcade. So first off, what is computational thinking? Well, all it is, it's just a way of thinking in order to solve a problem. So really organizing our thoughts. And it doesn't have to be done by a computer. This is one of the things we always share with our students. It can be done by humans. One of the key terms that we hear a lot and students hear, and we kind of take for granted because it's heard quite a bit, is the term algorithm. What exactly is an algorithm? Well, it's a sequence of instructions written for a human rather than a computer. Okay, so that's one key thing we always have to input is to emphasize is human in that aspect or in that definition there. So here's an example. We have an algorithm here. So we have ingredients and the method to use those ingredients to come to a certain objective or outcome. Okay, so this is an algorithm in action. In this case, homestyle baked beans. Okay, so you can see that we have the ingredients listed. And then the method, which is step by step. Okay, so if we go back and take a look, the sequence of instructions here that are written for the human, or right here in this recipe and the method, how to use all of these individual items and how to use them within a method to get a certain outcome. Next, so let's take a look at another one, and this time we can put it into a real life algorithm or maybe a sequence. So from the very beginning, you can see here now we're kind of developing that computational thinking, and we're almost at the stage. You can kind of see the beginnings of block coding here in our flowchart here. So we have a start, a definite start, and we have a definite end. And in between that, we have these steps, very similar to that recipe we just showed you. So let's start with this one. So fill the bath with water, get undressed, get into the bath, wash, get out of bath, empty the bath water, get dressed. Now you can see this is a very simple sequence to show either your morning or evening routine here. And next we have program. So what is a program? Well, sequence of instructions that can be understood by a computer. So if we take a look here at the bottom, you can see microbits is being used, very similar to what we're going to see in the Minecraft code builder block coding and also with MakeCode Arcade. However, we will talk about some of the other languages, but a program is a sequence of instructions. And in this case, this is why we would have to use block coding or JavaScript or Python to make sure the computer understands what we want. And next we have debugging. Okay, this is always a fun terminology to use in the classroom. The kids love this introduction, but identifying and removing errors, and that's going back to the program that we're inputting into the computer. And it's not always going to be right. And in fact, debugging sometimes comes about and it creates improvements in what you wanted to get in your outcome. And we'll talk a bit more about that later when I give some sample assignments. So, for example, 5 plus 5 equals 11. What would you say if you saw someone complete this sum? Well, check it or try again. Or if we want to use computational thinking language, we can say debug it. So if we saw the steps, and teachers already know this, whenever we ask the student to go back and show us the steps on how they came about to a solution, we can usually help them debug it, or sometimes they do it themselves. Next on our list here is loops, which it is also called iteration, which is the formal term, but loops is what you're going to see a lot more often when you're doing coding lessons with students. So I'm going to show quite a few examples of loops when we get started, but it is just the act of repeating a process or set of steps until reaching a desired goal. And here's one here. So in terms of creating a loop for the school week, we have, you can see this block coding. It looks like the letter C or a mouth, right? And it has the repeat. And this is very common, as you'll see. And those of you who've never used Code Builder or MakeCode Arcade, you'll notice a lot of similarities between the coding, the block coding here, and then also in some of that you might have used before in other programs. But here we have repeat, and then we have the occurrence, the number here, 5. And here is what's going to happen. Wake up, go to school, go home. And then we can very easily put this and add in more loops to create for the whole week. So if we connect another loop for just 2 days, then we can add wake up, play at home, go to sleep. So that accounts for the weekend, and then we have the whole week there. And this usually helps students understand how that comes together and how that coding is, and those steps put in a way that the computer can understand and put those things into action. And then we can even have a larger loop that incorporates all of those. And look at here at a 7-week half term at school. Next up, we have decomposition, a problem broken down into smaller parts so that it is easier to understand and solve. So here, if we break down any process it creates here on paper, or if we do using graphic organizers, you can see here it's almost a flow chart. Okay, now when we put that into programming, we can see the steps even still. So we might have the initial occurrence here, and then we have the loop when needed, as we saw before, and then the other steps, and then another if, then, okay, conditional, all right? And then we can use that to break down any large scale occurrences that we want to put in and program into the computer. All right, selection. Next one is, this is when a question is asked and a decision is required in order for a follow-up action to be taken. Here's a great example. So this is almost like the if-then statement we saw earlier, but this one is if I shout out in class, what happens? I get in trouble, or in this terminology, we have else, I stay out of trouble. So this is, again, very common in block coding language, and we'll see that very often. And here's some examples of it when we're talking with the flow chart, and we see some exceptions that are input into the flow chart. So for example, remember we had this initial sequence earlier, but now if we start here, we turn on hot and cold water, we have some branches that go off. So is it too hot or cold? If it's yes, then we go here. If no, then we go down, and then we continue either a loop cycle or we continue on to the finished objective, okay, which is finishing up this bath. And then it can get even more and more detailed, okay, or complex as you go further. In this case, how to identify a square from other quadrilaterals, okay? So again, you can see how simple we can start off and then branch off into going more complex. And one of the favorite ways to do this is to use terminology and lyrics from songs. So I'm going to leave that here and see if anyone can actually identify this song. It might age me a bit. Right, so you can see this is an old 80s song here, Total Eclipse of the Heart, but you can see that the lyrics here are in tune to that flow chart and into that selection process that we showed earlier. I'll get to more current songs here in just a moment, but here we go. Here's another song everybody knows, Hey Jude. And we can see here that the flow goes down to the next lyrics, and then we have an order here, and after each line, it would go to the next one, you can see here. And then we finally get to the crescendo there where we get to the main chorus. And then sometimes we just have some very simple lyrics for example, Daft Punk's Around the World. And if you know that song, it's basically just repeating that over and over. So it's just one massive loop. But what we have here is we have some lyrics that are written down into our coding language. And what I'm going to do is actually play the video, and let's see if we can keep up with what's going on here on our flow chart as it's going through the selection process.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Well, give me all you got, don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Come along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy.
Okay, so I'll stop right there, but you can see now that we had the initial sequence or algorithm, right? Well, the sequence here, and then we had the loops. And following along the first verse, then we can see that it's going to reiterate, have those iteration loops over and over until we get to verse 2. So you can see how this can be used to introduce the computational thinking and also the language that you're going to be using in your computing classes in a fun way. So we can use it with music. So the only thing is you got to make sure you have those lyrics down. Let's move on here. All right, well, that brings me up to our first one, and we're going to talk about MakeCode that's built into Minecraft Education Edition, and a lot of you might know it as Code Builder. So I'm going to start with some very simple projects, and then, like I said earlier, I want to move into collaborating with our classroom in terms of using Microsoft Teams and also using our class notebook and how we can actually make these not only fun, but turn them into lessons and have students be the determiners of their success here and how far they get with it. So I'm going to switch screens here just a moment. And let's bring up our Minecraft Education Edition. For those of you that have never used it before, if you're in Wales, you're very lucky because you can just use your hub logins to get to your Minecraft Education Edition account and to log in. If you're outside of Wales, your school will need a license to get that done. Okay, so what I have here is I'm already in a world, and since it's not a Minecraft Education Edition total tutorial today, I'm gonna move past the part where we've logged in and access the world because I really want to focus on the coding aspect. But what I've done is I've logged into my account already. I'm in a world. Now, how do I access Code Builder? It's very easy. In fact, you won't see this pop up here on your screen initially. What you'll have to do is press the letter C. Okay, when you press the letter C, you will get Code Builder to pop up. All right, and then I'll show you that dashboard in just a moment and how to create a new project. So this would be referred to as a project. And this coding here I've put in, I'm going to go from scratch on how I did that. But what I'm going to do is hover over those pieces, and you can see now some of the similarity between these pieces and what we showed earlier when I was going through the different terminology. for using computing and code and introduction to coding. So for example, if I hover over this piece, this is going to run our code when you type a certain message in the game chat. So this is called our chat command block. And if I hover over this, this is our first loop. Okay, so you can see that repeat, and I get to actually, and here's a definition, do some statements several times. I can actually put in a number, and I've put in the number 100. And then the next one is something very unique to Code Builder within Minecraft Education Edition, which is spawning. And here I'm spawning creatures, just like it says here, at a given location. Now I get to choose the animal. In this case, it is chickens. And then I have these coordinates. Now these coordinates line up with the three-dimensional virtual environment within Minecraft Education Edition. Now what we mean by a 3D virtual environment is we have an X, Y, which is the traditional Cartesian coordinates, and then we also have a Z coordinate. That's because we have the up and the down, or the up and the cross, but we also have out in front of us with 3 dimensions. So that's the unique part of using coordinates in Minecraft Education Edition, which you can see up here. It's actually showing you my coordinates at the moment in this world. However, this is just basically saying now that when I type in chicken, it's going to do this 100 times, repeat 100 times, spawning chickens at this coordinate where I'm standing. And then above me, that's 10, that represents 10 blocks up above me. And then out in front of me, nowhere else. So basically only 10 blocks above me, chickens are going to start raining down on me. Okay, so how did I create this? Well, you can see that we have a vast amount of options on our left-hand side. And when I go here to basic, you're going to see a lot of basic block coding that I'm going to use quite a bit. And chat command is one of those. And you can see the default here is jump. So if I grab that out, okay, put that there. And then the next one is our loop, which if we go down our vertical menu here, you can see that we do have loops listed right here. So I'm going to go in there. Now I can do it to where it's on start. That means I would have to press the little play button that will pop up here later. I can do it forever. We'll just keep going. But I'm going to use the one down here, very similar to what we saw earlier, except the number is on default for four times. And I'm just going to put that in there. And then next, we have our spawn animals. That would be here under mobs. And it's the very first one. Now you can see there's all kinds of bits, different coding blocks I can use for spawning mobs. And mobs is a Minecraft terminology for groups of animals, or monsters, or zombies. But I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to branch out, like I said, from a simple project and how to extend it for even your more advanced learners. So I'm going to take this out and just drag it and put it where I want. Those of you that have used in the primary classrooms like Scratch and those type of coding programs are going to see a lot of similarities here. And that's great because it means that when you're transitioning to using Minecraft, the students will not have that new factor, and they won't have really an excuse to not be familiar with what they're doing. In fact, you won't have to worry about that at all because it's in Minecraft and they love doing it. So I have this now. Now, this one is totally different from my initial one. You can see the differences I put. And for jump, I've changed it to chicken. For the number, I've changed it to 100. And I've made sure that my y-axis is 10. That means if I left it at 0, that means the chickens would just spawn on the ground in front of me. Okay. But here, I want it to rain chickens. So I'm putting it 10. In fact, I'll change that number to 15. And I'm going to get rid of this chunk of code. All right. And what I'm going to do is go into the Minecraft world, and to type in something, I'm just going to tap the letter T for text. You can see here I've typed chicken quite a few times. And we're going to do that. And then above me, this is the part where sometimes I might have a delay. We should have some chickens falling in just a moment. Let me go back over here. Make sure we got it. use another one. There we go. Okay, so let's get that in there. It's going to be a bit slow, so it'll be coming down in a second. But what I want to make sure, because of the lag, I want to make sure, first of all, that even though this is a very simple coding input, that we can change this very quickly whenever we need to something more advanced. So while I'm waiting for my chickens to come in just a moment, I want to go over a couple of other things that you can do to extend this. So you might have students that have used block coding, and they go through this very, very quickly. So one of the things that Code Builder Minecraft Education Edition has done is they've built in more additional language to use for your coding. So JavaScript, for example, if we translate this right away, we have the same function here happening, but now it's in JavaScript. So why is that important? Is because, well, now you can have your students who are great whizzes with block coding, and we need to challenge them a bit. And now we can have them see the similarities and see what is repetitive, and then start that learning process for JavaScript. And if I take a look, I can easily do that with Python as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and translate that. And then it's very easy to switch back and forth. Okay. And if they need to go back to just see how it lines up with block coding, if that's at the level they're at, then that's great. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, even though we have a very simple coding project here called Raining Chickens, I'm going to go to the home dash quickly. I'll come back to it in just a moment. I want to make sure, first of all, we know what it looks like when we first come in here. And this is what it looks like when you first go into Code Builder. Now you can see I have some projects here. Okay, but I also have new projects. So if I want to start from scratch, I can do that. Okay, now this is the one I saved. Okay, now if I open that, you'll see that it's the same piece of coding I had earlier. Let that open up. Okay, great. All right, so now we've got that there. Let's make sure. Got that. I'm going to type that in one more time. Put you in. Excellent. Okay, so what happens though when you have a piece of coding and maybe you want your students to debug it, or we want to send it as an assignment for them to look at or maybe rewrite as Python or JavaScript? Well, all we have to do is go up to the top where the cog is, and we're going to save that project. Now, I've already done this, but I'm going to show you that what will happen is it'll save to the device you're using. Now, I'm using a Windows 10 device, so I'll have the ability to save that here. So as you can see, I've saved it already from yesterday, my downloads folder, and it'll have .mkcd after it. Now you can see it has the blank piece. It looks like a blank piece of paper there. That just means that it's a very, usually with unique coding or even Minecraft worlds, unless you have the app, you won't be able to run those. Okay. So if you send that to somebody who doesn't have Minecraft Education Edition, they won't be able to open it and use it. Okay, so just a warning there. So what I've done is I've saved that. And now if I go to Microsoft Teams and open this up, we can take a look now how we can take just that simple coding project and now use it to extend what we're doing in and out of the classroom. So I've got my team here called Mr. Garza's team. And if I go to my class notebook, here, what I've done is I've set up a couple of challenges for my students. And it's also, I'm going to show you how easy it is to take the assignments or challenges that I've used in class notebook and use them within assignments, okay, and assign things from class notebook to my students so they can work either at their own pace or with certain guidelines, okay? So I like Class Notebook within Teams, but don't forget, we also have the Class Notebook app, which I'll show you as well. Okay, so here's my Class Notebook here. Okay, for this particular one though, I want to show you using my Class Notebook app. So this is the same thing. It's my Mr. Garza's team. Now, this app for the OneNote app for Windows 10, what it does is it allows you to only bring up class notebooks that you're using or OneNote notebooks. Okay, and I'll show you how it's the same here as within Teams. But the reason why I'm in here is just to show you quickly how we can turn these assignments into greater challenges for our students, depending on their abilities. So for example, I have some chilly challenges for the code builder, and we're going to start off with mild, and we're going to have them access, there's the file. They're going to access the next extension, which is the spicy extension. They have to complete the block coding lines to complete raining chickens, then answer the question below. Okay, so the question after they finished this particular assignment is, what is the JavaScript line equivalent of the block code above, which is this piece of coding we saw earlier about spawning the select type of animal and also the XYZ coordinates that we saw. So what they'd have to do now, for some of your students, it'll be their first exposure to JavaScript. So they're going to have to really take a look at the lines and see how it comes together. Now, what I've done is I've done a little cheat sheet down here, and I've put them here for me, okay? Because what they'll need to do is when they find that answer, to get to the spicy, they're going to have to enter the password, okay? So that means they're going to have to find the JavaScript equivalent, and in this case, it's right here. And they're going to have to enter that as the password to get into the next section. Now you can see here, now what we're doing is we're creating that independence and autonomy for our students to make sure that they are in control of how far they get with their challenges. Because like we said earlier, you're going to have some students that really are just really quick with block coding, and they need to be a bit more challenged. So we'll put that in. Hopefully it lets us in. There we go. And then they can move on to the next one. Now you can see it's unlocked. Okay. Now, just in case you've never locked a section, I just want to show you quickly how to do that. I'll go to this one here. If I right click on a section and go to password protection, I can add a password. Okay. Just remember, just make sure you know what the password is. Yeah. Okay. Once it's unlocked, it'll stay unlocked for that person. Okay. And then, for example, the student now can move on to building a house. So you can see the next portion, or the next challenge, would be to go to Code Builder, the main dashboard I showed earlier, pressing the house button, which is that button we saw that gets you to the main dashboard, locate the builder section, open the block code example, and then reprogram the code so the house does not contain windows. So what that is it's an actual piece of coding they give you. I'll show you in just a second, where you have to go through and find the lines of coding that adds windows to your house. And before I show you that, to access the Code Builder Hot extension, they'd have to answer this one using Python. So what is the Python line of code that must be removed to ensure your house has no windows? So yes, they can do this in block code if they want to, but they have to answer the question now with another language, which is Python. So let me go back and show you what that looks like. So if we go to our Minecraft again, and we go back to the main dashboard, there's the home button we were talking about in those directions. Looks like a little stuck there while we're waiting for that. There we go. It looks like it's thinking now. Okay, there's the main dashboard we were talking about. And you can see I had a project already ready to go. I saved. However, they would have to scroll down. And near the bottom, there's a building section. Here it is. There's our builder section. And there's the build a house. Now, the great thing about this section, like I said, is it gives you the actual coding. So this is another challenge because they're not creating the code from scratch. They're actually going to be given some code. So we could even give them specific languages to use from the very beginning. But it doesn't really matter because they can switch back and forth, as I showed earlier. So I'll open the block coding example and then show you one more time, just in case, how they can switch from block coding to JavaScript to Python very quickly, depending on the challenge you set for them. Okay, so while that's opening up, just a reminder that any projects that you work on in Code Builder, and this goes for students as well, they can save it, and they can save it to their device. They can save it to OneNote. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you how we can even use it with Microsoft Team assignments. Okay, so it's loading up. it's going to give us a whole bunch of line coding in just a moment. All right, here we go, it's running up. And let's just review quickly what it is I wanted them to do. There it is. Okay, great. So this is all the coding that they're giving. All right. Now they'd have to go through and find out where they would have to go to make sure this house that's going to be built, there's my OneNote, when it's built, it has no windows, because once I run this code, okay, it's going to just build the house. Now you can see right here is where they would have to look. Now, again, they can always switch languages very quickly, and they would have to find out what that language or what that line of code, for example, here is in Python. Okay, so they can switch over very quickly to see that. I'm going to go back and go back to our OneNote class notebook here and review what we need to do. In fact, we've got it here. So let's go back to take a look here within Teams, because we're going to be using this for assignments anyway. So if I go back, take a look here, it would be in our content library. And for those of you that haven't used class notebook before, the content library is that area where the students can see, they just cannot edit what's in there. Okay, so it's a perfect area to put in these type of assignments. However you manage your class notebook is totally up to you, right? So we've got it here. There's other different sections. There's the initial one that we had. The other great thing about this is, even though as a teacher I can see all of my students' notebooks, they can't see each other's, only I can see them. However, if they want to move this section or this page into their student notebooks, they can do that. Okay, but just a moment, I'm going to show you an even easier way. All right, so there's, if you notice, this is the same piece of assignment, the same lesson that I had earlier. In fact, there's the coding, there's the answer to my next one. So I'm going to copy that, go back, because that's the answer, to get into the hot code builder extension. Okay, now when I go here, you'll notice that even in the Teams view of class notebook, okay, I'm still going to have to put in a password. Okay, so let's go ahead and click there and see if we can put in that password. Now, hopefully I've got the password right. Let's see, here it is. And nope. Didn't get it. So, well, that's the good thing. Even if they don't get the password, they're going to have to go back and get it to make sure. Now, one of the things I did find when I do this, because you're dealing with spaces within your coding, just make sure the lines, when you ask them to use that for the passwords, are lined up. So in terms of in Python and in Java, sometimes there's spaces depending on the line of coding. It's not a big deal, though. Let me go back, try it one more time. And also, sometimes forget to put an extra bracket. So let's try it one more time. If not, I'm going to move on to our assignments, because that one's really cool as well. I want to show you that. No, didn't get it. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to our assignment. I definitely will not get to the hot extension today. So let's go to assignments, and let's talk about how we can use those files that we created from our coding projects and use them within our Teams assignments. So what I've done is I've gone through earlier and I've made a draft of an assignment using that Raining Chickens assignment. What I'm going to do is show you how to make it from scratch after I go into here and just show you this drafted assignment. So when I take a look at assignments, and for those of you very familiar with Microsoft Teams, or if you're not, when you start an assignment from scratch, you're going to have to put in the title, okay? And then we have categories, which in this case, I could put in, oops, I'll just put in ICT. Okay, and it'll remember those categories if you're going to use it again. Put in some instructions. And what I've done here is I've actually taken that page from the class notebook that I showed you, the initial page, the mild chili challenge, and I've inputted this into the assignment. Okay, so they don't have to go searching for it, but once they get going, they can go back and find the extension work. I'm going to show you to do that from scratch, but Also, I can add a rubric, okay? And then I can choose who to assign that to, when, and I can choose the channel over here of where to assign it, okay? So I can assign that whenever I want. What I'm going to do is save that, which means it'll be up here in the drafts, and show you how to do that from scratch. So I'm going to go to assignment. And as you noticed before, I put in raining chickens. And this would be the name of our initial lesson. Add a category, there's ICT. Remember, we said we can use it again. There it is. And we'll say start here and try to get to all extensions. And then we can add resources. Now, this is the part that's really cool because when I go here, it'll give me tons of options. And I'm going to show you the options to get to your class notebook. And I know a lot of teachers, including myself before Teams, class notebook was really the way to organize your class, distribute lessons, even use it for presentations. But now you can use it within Teams assignments, and it takes everything that's organized and takes it up and extends it and makes it even better. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my content library because you remember before, that's where we've kept all of these extensions. Put in the mild. Now it's out of order here for some reason, but mild is the first, and then it would go to spicy, then hot. So I'm going to put in mild. And once they do mild, if you remember, they have to get the password by answering the question, and then it allows them to go to the next extension. So I'm going to select that and attach it. And let's see what I should put everything in there. Okay, great. So now it's attached, and notice that it's given me the option so students edit their own copy, which is great. So I know they're not going to be able to edit anything in my notebook. Now I get to choose where I'm sending it. This is great. So where am I going to put it in my students' notebooks? Well, class notes, exam resources, handouts, homework, or quizzes. Well, let's go with homework. Okay, you go there. Oh, by the way, the other areas where you can insert things, OneDrive, URL links. You can put blank Office files in here as well. And you can even put a blank class notebook page, which is really cool. Or you could get something from another team. I'm going to go back here. And let's put that back in the way we had it. We had mild. Here's our raining chickens. Pop that in there. And you can see how easy that is. And then we're going to send that to the homework section, and we're done. So there we go. And it looks just like we had it before. Okay, notice over here, I've got 3 dots. I can undo this if I don't want them to edit their own copy, which I do want them to do, so I'm going to leave it. But if you want to undo that, you would just untick it. And notice you can also add more resources. So even though I've just added that from the class notebook, I can go back and add more things depending on what kind of project they're working on. Okay, and I have a rubric. Now, the rubrics are great, and I'm going to focus that more when we get to the MakeCode Arcade. So I'm going to save that because that one's really cool as well. So I'm going to save that because I'm going to show you how not only does it help them along the way for longer projects, know when they're complete and how well they've done, but also for the teacher, it helps you when you're marking and going through each student's work. So I'm going to really focus on that when we go to MakeCode Arcade. And again, I can choose which team to assign it to. It doesn't just have to be the team that I'm in currently, which is Mr. Garza's team. I can do it for one of my other classes, okay? And I can choose which students will get this, okay? So maybe you have some students who are doing something pre-block coding just to get them up to level to make sure that they're ready to actually start using coding within that environment. So maybe you only have select students. You can choose, okay? The default says all students, but you can select, for example, just a couple to get it. Or maybe it's everyone in the class is ready. And also due dates and time due. And I can choose which channel that's going to go to. So I'm going to choose our science and technology channel. There it is. That's done. And I'm going to assign it now. Okay, there we go. So if I click on that, and this is also great about Teams when you're putting in an assignment from Teams. I can also take a look at the student view. Okay, so I can take a look at actually what the students are going to see when they open this up. And I can also see who hasn't turned it in yet. Oh, there's a notification that it's been assigned. So if I take a look at this, there we go. That's what the students will see. And if you've seen one of our other webinars when we talked about Immersive Reader, you have Immersive Reader built in. And for those students that need it.
Raining chickens. Category, ICT. Due the 18th of September, 2023, 59. Instructions. Start here and try to get to all extension.
Okay, and if you did see the webinar on Immersive Reader, you remember we had text preferences, grammar options, and reading preferences. Probably the one that I like the best is the visible dictionary, where you can see everything when you click on it. It gives you a visual representation. So just in case there's terminology in there that the students might not be aware of, or maybe you haven't introduced yet, it'll give them definitions for that. So this is what it looks like. And as a teacher, I can also edit the assignment. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. Because if you remember, we saved that Raining Chickens project as a file. However, since I have it attached to this class notebook page, I don't have to enter it, or I don't have to attach it. However, let's say that I forgot, and I do need to attach that file. If I go to Add Resources and go to that file on my device, which would be in my upload from this device, that would pop up. And if you remember, there it is. Just double click. And what that does is, there it goes, it attaches it, and it knows that it's MakeCode. So you see that little symbol? Okay, press done. Okay, now thinking about it, it might be a great fail-safe for some insurance, just in case students get here and they tell you that they didn't get the file, which happens often. It just didn't look properly. So this is a backup. So actually, I just gave myself an idea. I think I'll actually do that from now on. So you can put that in there, update it, and that will update. Oops. So something was wrong there. It's probably because I've already assigned it. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. But I can do that from the very beginning and then make sure that all of my students have that. I'm going to discard that for now. Okay, so again, that's just a quick overview of how we took a very simple coding project in Minecraft, which was our Raining Chickens. I'm going to go ahead and exit Minecraft for now. And the first thing we did is we took a look at those languages and create some. We integrated that with our OneNote class notebook. And then we took it even further and made sure that we assign that through Teams assignments. So it's very, very easy to get started putting all of those things together. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back to our slideshow. Take a look here. And before we get started with MakeCode Arcade, I want to go over a couple of things with you guys. First off, I just want to reiterate, if you have any questions about anything that we covered today, just make sure you use those contact details we shared at the beginning, and also I'll share more at the end. But what I want to do is go over a couple of things that aspire to be authors that will help you as you go forward with your journey as an MIE, and also using EdTech in the classroom. So one of those is Aspire Ed. Okay, Aspire Ed is our platform to help educators train not only themselves, but entire schools and staffs. So what you can do is you can get a staff subscription, you can get an individual subscription, and right now, all of our Microsoft EDU courses on Aspire Ed are 50% off, and we're going to give away a code at the end, or Craig will probably be putting it up on the screen at some point, and you're going to can use that code to get 50% off any of the Microsoft EDU courses listed in Aspire Ed. Not only that, I'll be sending that along with other information after the webinar is over. And one thing I'll bring it up now as well as later, is our inspiration days. Now we're going to have some hands-on sessions. Now you saw that we covered, we touched on Microsoft Teams and OneNote class notebook, but we're going to have some actual hands-on sessions. If you register for the 24th and 25th and taking a look at our registration page to see the topics, what we're going to do is we're going to get you in with us, and you'll be able to collaborate with us in an actual training session to see how these things work from a hands-on point of view. We'll be giving you some tasks to do and taking you step by step to build up confidence to using these tools in your classroom. So I really, really encourage you guys, get on there and register today. It's going to be really fun. We're looking forward to working with you guys. Okay. So just want to make sure everyone understands 50% off code, Aspire Ed. Take a look. The website is here. Encourage you to take a look. And then we're going to get started here with MakeCode Arcade, which is probably in my top 5 now favorite activities to do because it's so fun, so much fun. All right, let me go ahead and get out of there. And let's go to my Edge browser. Okay. So if you haven't used, let me close down my OneNote as well. If you haven't used MakeCode Arcade, it's one of the lesser known areas of MakeCode. And most people know microbits, and they also know now Minecraft Education Edition. But MakeCode Arcade has been around for a while. And what it does is allows students to use coding and to instantly put it to practical use. And in this case, they get to make video games. And it looks very retro. So you can see that they get to make video games in the style of the old 8-bit and 16-bit style of gaming. So I'm just going to kind of go over the main dash. Here's some new ones. Wonder Woman 84 and Shark Attack are some new ones here. And you can see there's all kinds. Now, you can get lost in all of these because there's a lot of great games you can create. But I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to, just like we did before with the Minecraft Education Edition project, I'm going to show you how to start with a simple project and extend it. So that way we can start with a jumping on point that's not intimidating for any of our students and then move forward, okay? So I've got my Chase the Pizza. Now, these are tutorials, and the tutorials are great because it's step by step, and it encourages students, for example, if they're new to block coding, to use those in a guided tutorial, but also for JavaScript and Python. So right away, we can choose, we have a differentiated pathway here for our students. So I'm going to start with the blocks and just show you how easy it is to get started. And from the very beginning, it's going to be step by step, and we're going to see how we can put our coding into action right away in a practical format using the on-screen little Game Boy that they give you when you get started. So we're going to let that kick off, and then I'm also going to show you again how you can use these within your team's assignments as well, okay, to give out and to extend the work. So we're going to let that load up. Looks like it's having some issues today. So what I'm going to do is bring up my teams, and for this particular MakeCode, I'm going to be using a different team today. So I'm going to add Mr. Garza's team for this activity when we use the raining chickens. I'm actually going to go up here and use Mr. Garza's class today. So let me go ahead and head that up and get that ready in advance. Then we'll go back and check on our MakeCode Arcade. Let's go back here. Okay, so you can see it's warm up. Now, you can see here that we're going to have this Game Boy on the side, and I have a Surface device. And if you're using a Surface or a Windows 10 device with a touch screen, you're automatically able to play the game with touch controls on the screen just by touching it. So you can see over here, I've got the buttons here for direction pad, and then I've also got A and B. All that is touch sensitive, okay, using your touch screen, okay? So we're gonna let that go there. And here we go. Got some Chase the Pizza. Here we go. So you can see at the very top, it's going to give us some really detailed instructions going step by step. And I just want to also make sure it's clear that you don't have to use block coding from the very beginning. You can use JavaScript or Python. Okay, so what it says here, open the scene toolbox and drawer and drag the set background color block into the on start block in your workplace. Okay, let's go there. So scene, background color. We're going to drag that out. There we go. And click Next. Now, in the Set Background Color, we're going to click on this gray oval and choose what our background should be. So if I click here, I can choose what my background is going to look like. I'm going to choose this blue color. And you can see how easy this is. And again, depending on your students' abilities, this will give them that step-by-step guidance they need to get comfortable with the specific language. And you can see hints are popping up if you take too long. All right, so next, open the Sprites toolbox. We're going to drag our first block, which is Set My Sprite, into On Start, which I'll do now. So we'll open up the Sprites area. There it is, Set My Sprite. We're going to drag that out and put it in there. Okay, and that's going to create a player for our game. And if I go to Next, we're going to draw our player by clicking on the gray square, which is here, Sprite block. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. However, I'm going to show you a quick little cheat on that as well. So if I click on the gray, I can draw, or if I go to the gallery, we can quickly choose a player, okay, or sprite as they call them, from all the ones that are listed here. Okay, so I'm going to pick this football player here. He's running there. There we go, pick that one. Okay, so put him in there, and it's going to show him now on the gallery, okay, like the old MS Paint backdrop. And then we're going to press Done, and there he is, okay. And I'm going to go to Next. Now, let's open the controller and drag the Move My Sprite with the buttons. Well, we definitely want to do that. So I'm going to get that, and that way we can actually use this gamepad. Okay. Put that there. And we can actually test this out once that's loaded, just to see if he actually moves when we use the touchpad. Okay, so if I go here, there we go. Looks like he's not going up. I think I lost him. There he goes. Okay, so I'll leave him aside for now. He'll come back. All right, so now we're going to go back on our Sprite toolbox and drag another Set My Sprite 2 now, block into the game. There we go. And go to Next. And we're going to set it, and we're going to select this. And we're going to select Rename a Variable. And we're going to name that Pizza. Okay, and then we pressed OK. And now in the Set Pizza block, click on the player. Okay, and we're going to take a look at the food. So we're going to put that as food now. And also, we can put in from the gallery, there's actually pizza in here. There he is. Put that in there. Pop them in. There we go. Okay, so I've done that. We selected the gallery already, kind of jumped ahead of it a bit there. And then now we can go in here, go to our Sprite toolbox, and then on Sprite Overlaps, okay, other Sprite block onto the workspace, okay? There we go. We'll leave that there. Let's make sure, first of all, there we go, there's that guy. We can test it quickly. There he is. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, so we've got that there. We're going to drag this one out now. Put that there, and it should go. Okay, good. We can place that anywhere. Now we're going to go to Next, and then we're going to click on the second player kind. Okay, and we're going to put Other Sprite. Oh, there we are. Okay, put food there. And then on the next one, when our player overlaps with the pizza sprite, let's add a point to our game. So we're going to open the info and put change score and add that there. There we go. And then let's set the position for pizza to random locations. So we're going to around the screen. So we're going to open the sprites drawer. We're going to put set my sprite position in here. And we're going to click on the My Sprite and select pizza. There we go. And then we're going to open the math, drag 2 random blocks. Here we go. We can put that in there. And then we can put that one into the Y. Oops, get in there. There we go. Okay, so in the first pick random, which we've got, we're going to put some X coordinates here. We'll put 10 to 160. And I'll do this real quickly, and then we'll get playing. And then the next one, we're going to do 10 to 120. Very easy to do. All right, now open the info. We're going to start a countdown, and we'll put that in here as well. Okay. All right, so now let's try it out. So once you finish this, now you can see how easy it is with the tutorial to get these things done. What I'm going to do next is show you what do we do to share this with all of our students. And oh, here's an issue. We can now as well. We can even publish it. So I'm going to show you after I do this how we can share that easily as assignments. And also I'm going to introduce rubrics and using those with our coding. So we have to publish it, okay, to get this going. So I'm going to publish that. That way it's there. And just by the way, when you use MakeCode Arcade, it is attached to your device that you're using, okay? So it'll remember when you go to the site, arcade.makecode.com, it'll remember who you are and what device you used, okay? So I've got my game there, and you can see here, all I'm doing is every time I get the pizza, I've got a point. So over here is my points, and at the top is the timer. So I've got to keep getting my football player to get the pizza as fast as I can. So it's a pretty fun game. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'll stop there, and I can download this. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to ask me, I can actually use, there's the end of my game. Now I can use different hardware to actually play this. If you have any of these, it's pretty cool. So you can play this on actual screens. So it's one thing your students really look forward to doing. So if I go to the 3 dots here, I can download it to my device. So I'm going to download that now, which should give me a pop-up. There we go. And then I've got also a, if I make any changes, I can save it there. And just in case, when you, there we go. There's my, there it is, it's saving to my device. When I chose it from here, it's now doing it, okay? So if you go back to your home screen, and you can see this is my newest one. A lot of times the questions I get asked is, well, how do I get rid of old projects that are still listed? Well, you got to go to View All, select the one you want to get rid of, and there's the delete button. Okay, that's the way to do it, because that's probably the most common question I get. But anyway, there's my file. And just like before, I can use that now to put that into any kind of assignment I want. So what I'm going to do is go back to Microsoft Teams and show you how we can use this in a great assignment. So let's go to assignments at the top. And this time I'm also going to introduce rubrics for this one. So I'm going to go into my assignments now. And I should have a draft one ready to go. No. If not, we'll create from scratch. That's even better. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to create my assignment now, and we're going to call this Create a Sprite Game. Now, this is a different team, so I have new categories. So I'm going to create another ICT category and create a game using the rubrics, and I'm going to talk about the rubrics here. Now, I'm going to add that file from the device that I just downloaded, so they have a sample or a model to see what it would look like when they're finished. Okay, so I'm going to go here. upload that from my device, and it should be in my downloads. There it is. And we're going to let that upload. Looks like it's just there we go, like a thumbnail, which is great. It's fine. But the main thing is we're going to add this rubric. So when I go into my rubrics, I've already created one for this game before because I've given this assignment out. So the great thing is it's already there. But I'll also run you through, if you create a rubric for the first time, how to do it. So this is my sprite game. Okay. The description now is use this rubric to evaluate your finished game. And you can see here I have different categories of how the students can take control of their success, okay, when they're finished or along the way to check in to see how they're doing. So let's go straight to excellent. So using the game I just showed you, the game has all of it below. It has a sprite character, is controlled easily. The food appears at random coordinates. If you remember, the pizza kept popping up in different places. The count, it has a countdown timer, and points are awarded for eating food, and the game is published. That just means that it's there on the main dashboard. And you can see we can go all the way down. Now, I can change this rubric to add in different languages. So if I want to, for example, if I say the Java, okay, or I could change that to Python, depending on my student, I can make different rubrics. Okay, I'm gonna make one in general, and I can attach that rubric. We'll put that in there. All right, and then I can, just like before, when we assigned it before, I can assign it to specific classes, all of my students or some of my students, and also which class. So I'm going to edit that real quick, and we want this to go to our science and technology channel. There we go. It's done, and assign away. Okay, now here's the great thing. I'm going to show you how that rubric is going to help us when they return the games. Now, the students, if I go back here, are going to have to download their files and send it in for you to take a look at. Or if you're next to their device, they can just show you as a presentation, for example, which is always fun because kids like to do that. Okay, so it just depends on how you want to do that. But once you are ready to mark their work, it's very easy to get started with that. So if I go here to Beth, and if I just click, and let's say I'm looking at her work, and it's not going to be previewed here only because it has to be on the MakeCode Arcade system. But if I go quickly to take a look at each person's work, oh, let's make sure I picked the right one. There we go. I can give, there's the rubric. If I click on the rubric, as they're presenting or as I'm taking a look at their screen, I can just go through and quickly give a score. Okay, and then I can give some more feedback. If you use the www.ebi system, for example, you can have that ready to go and give some more follow-up feedback specific in addition to the rubric. So once I've done that, okay, I could go back if I need to make changes, okay, or I can go on to the next student and do the same thing. Okay, so maybe it was good, maybe it was excellent. Okay, and then I can put in the feedback. Oh, and just go from there. And it's that easy. Okay, the other cool thing that we can do in here is I've also got some Flipgrid ideas to use quickly to help reinforce, because sometimes you still, depending on the level of our students, you still got to make sure that we have those basic terminologies ready to go. So within Flipgrid, you can have the grid set up or topics to help with students to give some verbal or even to use their whiteboard that's built into Flipgrid to communicate what they know and don't know about a particular topic. In this one, it's let's use algorithms. So for example, I can share this directly within a team, or I can copy it and go into my team, put it at the top, and then we can share it through our Flipgrid tab. So let me show you how easy that is. And again, if you have any questions about Flipgrid, we do have webinars that are covering Flipgrid. So we encourage you to take a look at our registration page and go on today and register and take a look. We'll send you the recording if it's a past webinar, okay, to do that. So all we'd have to do is go to Flipgrid. We'd have the code, and then we'd put that in to help our students, okay? So we'd let that pop in. There's the code I just took. And that would line up with our let's use algorithms. And then you can have that. So that could be either something students are having troubles to go back and to review, or something to share what their concerns are, maybe what they know or don't know about that particular topic. Okay, but I'm going to move out of here now. And I want to give you guys, first off, your MIE code today for our webinar. Let's open this back up. And that's for your Microsoft Innovative Educator badge. And for those of you that are new to using Minecraft Education Edition and also MakeCode Arcade, I hope that signed up for today to give you some ideas of how to take a very simple project and extend that and use it with your students, and then also to give them a bit more control over how they're creating and also evaluating their own work, okay? So first off, if you've never used the Microsoft Educator Center, you're gonna have to go to education.microsoft.com, and I'll send you the directions in a follow-up email if you've never done that. And you're gonna use this code. So T-DGBBF7D20. Now again, this will be recorded, so in case you missed that, I will be sending you the link to this code as well. And then you're going to go to the Microsoft Educator Center and redeem that. Okay, so at the top right, you'll see your initials once you create an account. And if you have a Hub account or you're a teacher in Wales, you can create an account very easily with your Hub account, or if you have a personal Outlook or Hotmail account, you can do that as well. But just quickly, what can you find in the Educator Center? Well, you can find all kinds of courses and learning paths to help get you started with using Microsoft in the classroom. It's really fun. It's a great way to get more badges and also to help your CPD. There's also lesson plans in there, really cool ones. And if you're really getting into more coding and computational thinking type activities, there's shared lesson plans that Microsoft Innovative Educators and experts share with each other there. You can also look into more topics and more resources, such as the Family Resource Center. And just like with today, you can redeem more points and get more badges along the way. And it keeps a transcript, which is great for your CPD file. It creates a PDF of all the courses you've taken, when you've taken it, and timestamps it for you. And I do want to come back to this because we do have some hands-on activities coming up in our Inspiration Day workshops, okay? On the 24th and 25th, if you go to our registration page, the same one you used to register for this webinar, you can sign up to go hands-on and collaborate with the learning technologists here at Aspire to Be, and we'll go through different areas such as Microsoft Teams, OneNote, Class Notebook, and also Immersive Reader and some others. And also take advantage of the 50% off code for our Microsoft EDU courses on Aspire Ed. So if you go to aspireed.online and enter this code, you get half off all the courses, and they're already not very expensive as it is, so it's going to be really, really cheap. So I encourage you to do that. I'll be sending that code as well in a follow-up email, and also it'll be here on the recording, okay, when you're done. If you want to connect with Microsoft on social media and to see what other teachers are up to, or you want to share yourself or just get more ideas, take a look on Twitter, also Facebook and YouTube. Great way to keep track of what's going on with Microsoft teachers and innovative educators all over the world. Also, if you have any questions about anything Microsoft related, go to EDU Community UK at Microsoft.com. Feel free to contact them. If you have any questions about this webinar or Microsoft use in the classroom specifically, contact us here, the whole team, at info@aspiretobe.eu, okay? Now, one of the other things, as soon as we're done today with this webinar, is I'm going to be sending an evaluation form, feedback form, guys, and I really hope you fill it out for me. It's loading up here just to give you a preview, because what we're going to do is for each webinar, we're going to randomly select someone's feedback form, and we're going to give one person a lucky voucher. Okay. And that voucher lets you take the Microsoft Certified Educator exam for free. Okay. That's an over 90 pounds value, and you get to take it for free when you're ready. The voucher does not, it's not going to expire anytime soon. So you can take it whenever you feel that you're ready to do that. Okay. And that feedback form, as soon as the webinar, you'll be getting it by the end of the day. So the sooner you turn it in, the sooner we have your information. And lastly, there we go. Well, thank you guys for attending the webinar today. I had a blast. I really enjoy using Minecraft Education Edition, which you could probably tell, but also MakeCode Arcade, because both can be as simple as you want it to be, and they can be as complex as you want it to be. That's the great thing about the tools, and especially in the classroom. You won't have much time to have to actually you won't have much effort to put in to get your students engaged with these great activities. And as you can see, when you use it with Class Notebook and Teams, it takes it up to another level, and it really gets your students to force themselves to create that autonomous scale of success for their work. And that's what really it's all about. And they always have access to you through Teams. And then with Flipgrid as well, there's another avenue for them to share what they know and don't know in a secure way and share it with you. And you don't have to have any other students see those videos they create. It's just for you. And it creates that trust and that spirit of community within your classroom. So from all of us here at Aspire to Be, and from the whole team, I want to thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us, guys. All right. We'll see you next time. And again, take a look at the registration page, and we hope to see you again. Bye.